the side that you are not your story, or the data that you have collected about what has happened to you in your life. So in other words, your past is
your past.
Just a goodbye.
Having nothing to do with who you are in the present moment. Mm-hmm. And so many people imagine that the past is something that either has to be or is prone to be repeated, that it has to be duplicated in every single moment of now. And, you know, I work with people a lot in my life. In my workshops, seminars, retreats, and programs, I have thousands of people every year that come to me, and they're living from their past, and they're reliving their past in every single moment of now. And all I say to them is, you know, what would happen if you just let go of that? What would happen if you thought that you are not that? Mm-hmm. That happened to you. And we're not saying deny your past. We're not saying pretend it didn't occur. We're simply just noticing that that was then, and this is now. And the wonder of life is that every single moment of every single day gives us a chance to recreate ourselves anew in the next grandest version of the greatest vision ever we held about who we are. That's the gift of life. That's the opportunity.
And does that apply as well to the future? When you talk about the past, you also talk about the future is also not real.
No, there's nothing real about the future except what we choose to step into and create as our future. The future is nothing more than a conglomeration of events that we are currently creating right now. You will find that your future is what you're thinking about. And by the way, people have said this long before little old me. You know, as I said, Norman Vincent Peale, Dale Carnegie, Emile Coué, way back in the 1800s, who said, every day in every way I'm getting better and better. He used the power of auto-suggestion, and he wrote about it in those days. So this is very, very ancient wisdom. In fact, you know, someone much more famous than all of those people once said, as you believe, so will it be done unto you.
It's probably Jesus.
I think it was him, yeah.
Have only preferences. That is, do not settle for something you don't want as much as what you do want. So you have to prioritize your goals, or what is it you're talking about?
Well, have preferences rather than addictions is the point. You know, Ken Kais Jr. wrote a wonderful book on this subject called A Handbook to Higher Consciousness, and he said, you can tell when you're addicted to something when the absence of it causes you to be absent to your own happiness. So that's an addiction. And what he suggested, and I agree with him completely, is that if we simply elevate our addictions to preferences, you know, I prefer chocolate, but if vanilla is all you got, bring on the vanilla.
And be happy for it.
And celebrate it. Celebrate the vanilla. You know, I prefer brunettes, but if a blonde is the only one in the room, bring on the blonde. And celebrate it.
Which brings us to see the perfection.
Yes, of course. If we don't make everything wrong because it doesn't fit our prior picture. See, this is what I've learned in my life, Ed. I used to have all sorts of prior pictures about what I thought perfection was supposed to look like in work, in myself, first of all, what I was supposed to look like when I was perfect, then what my life and my job and my occupation was supposed to look like, then what my life partner was supposed to look like, and what my family was supposed to look like, and my friend, and I had all these pictures already drawn in my mind. And you know what? Not a single one of them has turned out the way I thought it was supposed to be when I was thinking that way. And the only way I've been able to find a place of peace and happiness, which is a great place of celebration, is by saying, you know what, I'm going to set aside my idea of perfection and see what's right here, right now, as perfect, because in fact, it is. This is more than a trick of the mind. This is what's true. And it's right in front of my face. And when I can celebrate that, as I said earlier, I set up the energies to create more of that. I've got a life situation right now in my life that is beyond anything I could have believed or thought of and does not fit into any of my prior pictures. I've got a life partner who's a magnificent, glorious, incredible person who I never would have imagined myself being with. I've got a way of living in my life, a life work that I never would have imagined I'd have. I have a whole experience from 9 to 5, from day to day of my life that's beyond anything I could have dreamt of, because I stopped dreaming of it and began accepting what was showing up out of my willingness to celebrate life as it's presenting itself. As Byron Katie would say, stop arguing with life, which is one of the 17 points in this book. Stop arguing with life.
And keep away from the drama.
Yeah, well, you know, we have a habit, and that's a good one for me to talk about because I spent most of my life into my drama. Actually, literally, I spent a lot of my life in the theater, in movies, on the stage, and I was so caught up in the drama of it. You can't spend your life doing theater and doing movies without getting into turning your whole life into a drama at some point. I still do from time to time. Well, I get into my dramas, but again, my dramas have become very short.
10 minutes.
Yeah, 10 minutes or less now, because I realize I'm writing the script. I'm directing the scene. and I can create the ending that I want to create, or step out of the drama altogether. So I've stopped dramatizing things that don't deserve that kind of focus, don't deserve that kind of attention. I kept on giving it focus and attention in my life, and of course making it larger as a result of that. Now I don't give it a second thought. Literally, don't give it a second thought. I might give it a first thought, but not a second.
And we talked about the sadness, understanding sadness.
Yeah.
How does an ordinary person get to talk with God?
You're doing it right now, and so am I. I think an ordinary person gets to talk with God by realizing that there's no way not to talk with God. That you're talking with God when you praise a flower. That you're talking with God when you look up at the night sky. That you talk with God when you commune with your own mind in your own head. And that you talk with God, of course, when you pray. Pray is nothing more than thought, marvelously magnified, enriched and enlarged beyond comprehension, to a place where the whole universe hears the thought and cannot help but respond to it. How do you talk with God? By simply doing so. By yearning, by desiring, by wanting, by asking, by praying, and by understanding and believing that God hears every single thought and prayer you send out and responds every single time.
That also takes getting out of your routine. All the examples you gave are examples of stopping, kind of like pausing your life and focusing on, the sky, the moon, the trees, the moment you're doing.
That pause can be less than 5 seconds. Just take a breath. Just take a breath. Look up. See the sky. Ah, yes. Ah, yes. Like Ram Dass said, "Be here now." So it's not a huge interruption in the living of one's life. It's just an occasional breath here, an occasional breath there, a stopping here, a pausing there, to take a look at what's really so, to get out of the drama, to step away from the illusion, and to say what's really so. See, as an example, this interview right now. If I weren't careful, I could get really nervous. Thousands and thousands of people are watching this television interview right now on the most popular television show in Las Vegas. And I'm talking to a person who's an icon in this town. And if that doesn't make a person nervous, what else would? So if I wanted to get into my drama about it, I could walk in here perspiring, nervous, all sweaty. Oh my gosh, I'm on Ed's show. My gosh, how am I going to hope I do well? Hope this goes okay. Or I can just pause for a second, as I did when I looked at you when I walked into the room, and I said to myself, this is a nice person. This is a real human being. This man is not going to hurt me or do me any harm. We're going to have a good time here. This is an aspect of divinity sitting here in front of me. And all of a sudden the interview has an entirely different flavor in my mind.
Thank you. I feel the same way about you. The book is called Happier Than God, Neale Donald Walsch, also the author of Conversations with God, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, right? As well as another dozen books on top of that. It's been a pleasure. You also have a website, I'm sure, right?
Yes, NealeDonaldWalsch.com, or you can get to it at ndwhome.com.
ndwhome.com. See you next week. Thank you, Neale.